Hello guys, this is Lucas the Explorer, and today we do the first step to reach the GTO mountain and we avoid drowning in the sea full of bad wrecks. Let's hop right in. Today's question is why should we limb step 100%? And it's the limb step theory. Our board is King 7 deuce with two hearts and we are around 14 big blinds deep before we limp. Um, and we get to that solution here. Basically, we will c-bet around 37% on this board structure. Given the ranges we provided, it's kind of a mix. I gave like 35% range to villain to ISO, which we see here. This is basically his defending range. So he defends pretty linear, and then he defends around 10% of those hands, which is basically a mixture of most people. It's not going to influence our outcome too much. The post-flop tendency is going to influence the whole picture a lot more. So let's take a look at what we have here. What we're going to do today is we're going to focus on 10-3 offsuit, which we mainly check here. Green is check, red is bet. And we compare the EV of the both options, which basically Pyro Solver does the same, right? So EV of betting and checking is very similar, but checking slightly outperforms the bet. So now we need to see how does villain play versus our bet. And if we get to that window, first thing we see villain check raise is 15.45%, which is very unlikely. We see hands that check raise are queen deuce, jack deuce, 10 deuce offsuit, same queen deuce suited, jack deuce suited. Those are type of hands you probably don't see too many of the check raises. Also, he's not check raising. We're talking about like the passive guys here. If he's check raising aggressively, if he's like an aggro rack and tries to fight for every pot, of course you need to check more. But versus a passive guy, which is most of the racks and nearly all of the fish, we cannot expect that he's gonna check raise 9-8, 10-9, 10-8, check 9, and check 8 in a too high of a frequency. So let's compare what happens if we tone down his defense frequency. So what I've done here is just remove the 2x and I removed those bluffs here. He still check raise some of the flush draws, which is obvious, right? But he's not check raising too many offsuit combinations as a bluff. He's still check raising like queen jack. I haven't removed all of them, just some. So his overall check raise is around 7%. And let's see how our betting strategy just because of that changes. So right now we bet 96% comparatively to the 37 before, and we can check 10-3. Suddenly the EV is a lot better by betting. It's suddenly 6.73 compared to 6.1. So that easy adjustment already is enough for us to decide that we want to limp step our entire range. And that's basically what we teach you, right? But this is the concept behind it. That we assume villain is too passive and our V is just greater by betting rather than checking. Second thing we can take a look at if we bet is he actually going to defend that wide? And we probably don't assume the villain's going to call 9-8, 10-8, 10-9 offsuit, jack 9 offsuit, jack 8 offsuit too often. Probably not even all his queen X in that high frequency. So we can also remove those hands, which I've done here. I still left the queen highs inside because sometimes he's going to call, but he's not going to float too many 10-9, jack 8, 10-8. So I slightly increased his folding frequency. And as we see now, we basically have to bet any two except maybe queens. And the EV of 10-3 just skyrocketed here. Betting is just suddenly like a lot better as 7.8 compared to 6.9. And that's actually a pretty sick outcome. So that's basically the reason why we need to limp step on board structures too often. And the reasons are villain is usually too passive. If he doesn't check raise a lot or if he overfolds, we always have a reason to bet instead of checking. Now what we can do as well is compare the overall EV of our ranges. And that being said, a number change in those two digits here is actually very significant. And the first EV of our entire range is 11.66, which means if villain just plays the range accordingly. Second one is when villain check raises too little, and we see a huge EV increase here, 0.5, which is enormous. And the third one is we start folding a little bit too much as well as not check raising enough. And then we nearly have an EV increase of 1 here, which is crazy enormous, and that's gonna be a huge amount of win rate. Thanks for listening. This was Lucas the Explorer. See you next time. Bye bye guys.